Welcome to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Today, let's talk about the swamp of sadness. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. I am your host, Kale Houser, CEO and co-founder of Kale Houser Leadership, along with my amazing wife, Liz Houser, co-founder and COO of Kale Houser Leadership. I appreciate you joining me today. Today's a little bit more of a somber subject, as you probably guessed by the intro. How many of you have seen, if you're a certain age, or maybe you reintroduced it to your kids or something of that nature, but you've seen the movie The Never Ending Story? This is a classic 1980s something movie about a boy who kind of gets involved in a book and, gets delved into his world and all this kind of stuff, and this kind of fantastical journey that they make. And one of the main characters, darn it, I forget the name now, Atreyu, something of that nature. It's the hunter boy and his trusty steed, his trusty horse. Darn it, I forget the horse's name too. So you could probably drop it in the comments if you remember what it is. I should certainly look it up. But they're on this journey to save the kingdom, to save the world, because the nothing is coming. To basically wipe out everything. And they have to find, I think it's Gamora or Mora or something of that nature. It's the wise one, which ends up being this giant turtle. Like I said, it's a fantasy movie. It's absolutely phenomenal movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it and definitely show your kids it. But during this journey, they have to travel through the swamp of sadness, where essentially, right, it's just as you would imagine this massive, fantastical swamp that is. It's muck, it's mire, it's cold, it's dreary, it's gray, dead trees, and, they're going through, he can't ride his horse anymore, so he's kind of leading the horse along, and they're, just trudging through, knee-deep mud. And the whole kind of point of this swamp of sadness is if you let the sadness overtake you, then the swamp will claim you, kind of thing. Well, as he's going along and he's trudging along, and they're kind of losing hope of finding Mora, of the wise one, to know how to save the kingdom and save the world, his horse starts sinking a little bit. And there's this moment, and it's kind of classified as probably one of the saddest moments in young movie history, cinematic history, for especially kind of a kids show, as it were. And essentially his horse starts sinking because the horse has given up hope. The horse is starting to let the sadness of their journey, the sadness of their lack of progress, their sadness of not getting the results that they were setting out to do, overtake him, and the horse started to sink into the swamp. And it comes this point at first, the hunter kid, I think it is Atreyu, is like, oh, stop joking around, come on, let's go. We're going to keep going, right? Trying to pump him up and influx the positivity into the situation. But the horse continues to, kind of refuse to move. And then, the mud starts going up as the horse is sinking, right? Inevitably to its doom. And so then, that positivity turns to panic in Atreyu, and then it turns to like pleading and begging and screaming, like, come on, you can do it, and going, because he's terrified of losing at this point, this horse was kind of his best friend, right? He'd grown up with this horse, and they'd gone on all these adventures and these things together. And it's this just massively emotional, intense moment. You can really feel the pain, the sadness, all the emotion of the moment of eventually the horse sinks underneath and dies, right? He can't, there's nothing that Atreyu can do to convince the horse to not give up hope, right? And it's this moment, again, it's a fantasy movie, and we're taking a little bit of a life lesson from it in this, fantastical type of a setting, but it's absolutely 100% applicable to us as entrepreneurs. Like, we go through these moments and these swamps of sadness to where it is so easy to kind of give up hope, like something doesn't work out, and then the other thing doesn't work out, and then you get some bad news over here, and then something else doesn't happen that you expected to happen, and you don't get the good news that you wanted. And it's so easy, especially if you're doing this by yourself, especially if you are a leader of one at this point and you're on that entrepreneurial journey, or even if you are a leader of a team, you have these setbacks, or maybe a couple key players in your team quit or move on to other companies, or whatever happens, right? You can find yourself in this swamp of sadness kind of scenario. And it's so easy to respond in such a way that's hopeless, and respond in such a way that you kind of give up and you lose sight of your vision, you lose sight of your purpose, you lose sight of why you're doing this journey in the first place. Now, certainly, if you are part of a larger corporation or a larger organization where maybe you're a department head or a manager of some sort, it's easy to withdraw into yourself and just kind of allow yourself to proverbially sink into the mud and the muck and the mire, to where you just can't move anymore. You're kind of frozen in that environment, and it's so difficult to keep motivating yourself, to keep showing up every day despite the setbacks, despite the failures, despite the sadness that is happening. And that's not even to include stuff that may be happening personally at home with you. We all have, relationships, and whether you have a spouse or kids or parents or siblings, like we all have these relationships that affect us, certainly as part of our leadership journey. And absolutely, that's just part of being human. We live in a relational society, and we in fact we kind of thrive on that. And we can have those setbacks, maybe something as sad as a divorce or a failed relationship, or heaven forbid, a death in the family, or something, a sickness that catches you off guard. And it's so easy to allow those types of things to, again, put us in the swamp of sadness. And I'm here to tell you and hopefully encourage you that there are ways to handle that. There are things that you can do to understand that. And it really, of course, is a mindset type of thing. One is surrounding yourself with people that don't contribute to that swamp of sadness. Surround yourself with people that, once they see it or recognize it, you can get help from. They can be that encouraging voice. They can be the voice that kind of calls out to you and says, yes, this is a setback. What have we learned from it? How are we going to change? How are we going to keep moving forward to accomplish our vision, goals, dreams, and everything else that we're setting out to do in our business, and especially on our leadership journey? Yes, you made a mistake. Yes, that was the absolutely wrong way to respond to that situation. But how can you make amends and turn that situation into something amazing, to where your team now remembers you for the humbleness that you approached it with, the learning attitude, the maybe not necessarily the contrition, but certainly the ability to learn and accept and understand your role and how that changes, and how to relate to other people. But the important part I wanted to really emphasize on this is, we all at different times deal with this swamp of sadness kind of feeling. I absolutely myself go through it. It's part of life. It's part of, anytime you interact with other human beings, you're inevitably going to have these moments of setbacks, these moments of failure, these moments of disappointment, whatever that may be, or looking like for you at this time that you're listening to this. And I just 100% encourage you that, no one single event is the end of the world. No one single event or one single failure is reason to go under in the muck and the swamp of sadness, or even to stay there. Like, keep pushing forward. And that's what eventually saved Atreyu at the end. Even after his horse had given up and died, he kept going forward. No matter how difficult it was, he never quit. He kept going forward, and eventually, reached his goal. And of course, the happy ending for the movie. I won't spoil it for you in case you haven't seen it yet. But if you find, or you are currently in this swamp of sadness kind of thing, or maybe the title of this podcast or this video attracted you to this because it kind of is relating to where you're at right now, man, let me just be that encouragement to you that yes, you are capable. Yes, you can learn. Yes, you can change. There are things and activities you can do, relationships and things you can foster and cultivate in order to keep pushing through to that eventual win, to that eventual success. Because remember, the only way to fail, it really, really, really is to quit. And we're not quitters. That's what we're not called to be, especially as leaders. We want to be successful leaders. We want to build amazing teams. We want to build that culture that we can be proud of, that moves us ultimately towards our mission and goals of our business and our life, certainly. So if there's anything that we can do to help you, if you're finding yourself, man, you're just mistake after mistake after mistake, guess what? kalehouserleadership.com/mistakes will take you to my ebook about the 10 biggest mistakes that all new leaders make and how to avoid them. So that's your first step. If you are in that swamp of sadness, look for that external information. What is it that you're missing? How did you get there? What do you need in order to get out of that and keep pushing forward and keep pressing and building your team and becoming the amazing leader that you are capable of being? Hope you found this encouraging. Not too sad on the flip side, but trust me, if you haven't seen The Neverending Story, please make sure you do. It's just a fun little fantasy movie, especially if you have kind of that 8-year-old kind of kids at home, maybe 8 to 12, and they enjoy that kind of genre, that fantasy genre. It has a lot of good life lessons in it. All right, everybody. I appreciate you joining me. I appreciate you subscribing to the podcast. If this is something you enjoyed or you know somebody that needs to hear this, please make sure you share it with them, and maybe comment or tag me in the share. I'd be happy to reach out or answer any questions that you may have. If you did not enjoy it, don't share it. Make sure you come back tomorrow and we'll try again then. I look forward to talking to you no matter where you're at in the world. Have a fantastic afternoon. Bye.